The sound came first. A rhythmic thunder, wood against stone, Roman battering rams slamming into walls that had stood for generations. Inside Jerusalem, a mother held her dying child, not from Roman swords, but from hunger so absolute it had driven people to madness. Josephus, the Jewish historian who witnessed it all, recorded what starvation did to this city. Mothers cooking their own infants, families fighting over scraps of leather, the living envying the dead. For 5 months, Rome's greatest generals strangled the holiest city on earth. And on August 30th, 70 AD, the unthinkable happened. The Second Temple, Judaism's beating heart, the dwelling place of God on earth, the center of Jewish identity for 6 centuries, burned to ash. 1.1 million Jews died. 97,000 survivors were dragged into slavery. Nay, the Golden Menorah was paraded through Roman streets, and Jewish sovereignty over their homeland ended for 1,878 years. This is not merely a siege. This is the catastrophe that scattered a people across the earth, transformed a religion, and created wounds that bleed to this day. This is Jerusalem, 70 AD. To understand why this destruction was inevitable, you must first understand what collided here. On one side, Rome, the empire that had crushed Carthage, conquered Greece, and swallowed the Mediterranean whole. Rome did not tolerate defiance. Rome did not forget rebellion. When provinces resisted, Rome made examples written in blood and fire. On the other side, Judea, a small, rocky province that should have been insignificant. But Judea possessed something Rome couldn't conquer with legions: faith. And the Jews worshiped one God, invisible, absolute, demanding exclusive loyalty. They refused to bow before Roman emperors, refused to place imperial statues in their temple, refused to become Roman in their souls. For decades, this tension simmered. Roman governors provoked, Jewish zealots resisted. Each incident added fuel to the fire. But the true catastrophe wasn't Roman versus Jew. It was something far darker. To understand why Jerusalem fell, examine the 4 pillars of its destruction. The first pillar, the Sacred Heart. The temple wasn't merely a building. It was the only place on earth where God dwelt among his people. Every Jewish male was commanded to pilgrimage here 3 times yearly. Sacrifices could be offered nowhere else. The temple was Judaism itself, made of stone, gold, and divine presence. Destroy the temple, and you destroy the faith. Or so Rome believed. The second pillar, the Roman machine. Titus brought 4 legions, 70,000 men trained in the most sophisticated siege warfare the ancient world had ever seen. Catapults that hurled stones weighing a talent, battering rams requiring hundreds of soldiers to operate, siege towers that rose higher than city walls. Rome had never failed to take a city. Never. The third pillar, the zealot fire. Among the Jews, factions had risen who welcomed war with Rome. They believed God would intervene, believed divine miracles would scatter the legions, believed death was preferable to submission. Their courage was extraordinary. Their timing was catastrophic. The fourth pillar, the deadliest of all, the fractured defense. Jerusalem wasn't united against Rome. And 3 Jewish factions controlled different parts of the city, and they hated each other almost as much as they hated the enemy outside. While Romans built siege works, Jews murdered Jews inside the walls. One faction burned the city's food supplies, enough grain to withstand years of siege, destroyed in factional spite. Jerusalem was committing suicide before Rome ever breached the gates. Imagine standing in the temple courts before the siege. The smell of incense and burning offerings. The sound of Levite choirs echoing off marble colonnades. Herod's temple, rebuilt over 46 years, gleamed so brilliantly in sunlight that visitors shielded their eyes. White marble, gold fixtures, bronze gates requiring 20 men to open. Pilgrims wept upon seeing it. Rabbis declared that whoever hadn't seen this temple had never seen true beauty. And today, only the Western Wall remains. Tourists photograph what millions once considered the gateway to heaven. But in spring of 70 AD, this glory was surrounded. 2 miles from Jerusalem's walls, another city rose. Titus's encampment stretched across the hillsides, a temporary metropolis of leather tents, siege equipment, and disciplined violence. The smell of forge fires and horse sweat, the rhythmic clang of blacksmiths repairing weapons, the grinding of stones being shaped into ammunition. Roman soldiers didn't merely fight. They engineered. They constructed roads to move equipment, built walls to prevent escape, erected crucifixion posts visible from Jerusalem's ramparts, a message written in dying flesh. Titus himself was 30 years old, son of Emperor Vespasian. Ambitious, ruthless, patient, he had time. Jerusalem did not, and the road to this moment began 4 years earlier. In 66 AD, decades of tension exploded. Roman governor Florus raided the temple treasury. Jewish protesters mocked him by collecting coins for the poor Roman. Florus unleashed his soldiers. Blood flowed through Jerusalem's streets. Then something impossible happened. The Jews fought back and won. The Roman garrison was slaughtered. The 12th Legion, Rome's professional killers, was ambushed and destroyed in the mountain passes. The eagle standard, Rome's sacred symbol, was captured. Rome had not suffered such humiliation in generations. Emperor Nero dispatched Vespasian, his finest general, with 60,000 troops. Methodically, brutally, Vespasian crushed Galilee. Town after town fell. Survivors were enslaved or crucified. The noose tightened around Jerusalem. Then Nero died. A civil war erupted across the empire. Vespasian seized the throne and left for Rome. His son Titus inherited the siege. By April 70 AD, Jerusalem was swollen with Passover pilgrims, perhaps 1 million souls trapped inside when Titus sealed the exits. Inside, the 3 Jewish factions finally stopped fighting each other. Too late. The grain stores lay in ashes. The walls were strong, but stomachs were empty, and Roman patience was infinite. The strangling began. 5 months. That's how long Titus waited while Jerusalem consumed itself. Roman siege walls encircled the city completely. No food entered, no one escaped. Soldiers crucified anyone caught fleeing. 500 per day at the height of the siege. Crosses lined the hills like a forest of agony. Inside, hunger became madness. First, the poor died. Then the wealthy, and their gold worthless against empty markets. Families locked doors against neighbors. Children stole from parents. The bonds that hold civilization together dissolved. Josephus, watching from the Roman camp, a Jewish traitor or pragmatic survivor, depending on who tells the story, recorded what he witnessed. Individual turned against individual. Roving gangs searched houses for hidden food, torturing residents for scraps. A man would kill for a handful of grain. Families shattered. Josephus describes husbands snatching food from wives' mouths, parents from children. The most sacred bonds meant nothing against starvation's demands. Commerce ceased. Gold coins piled worthless while people chewed leather belts and sandal straps. Law vanished. The factions that once fought for control now fought simply to eat. Faith itself was tested. And where was God? Where were the miracles the zealots promised? And then, the account that haunted the ancient world. A woman named Mary from a wealthy family, driven beyond madness by hunger, killed her own infant son. roasted him, ate half. When zealot soldiers smelled cooking meat and burst in demanding food, she offered them the remains. Even hardened killers fled in horror. When Titus heard this account, he swore before God that he would bury such abominations under the rubble of Jerusalem. The Romans breached the first wall in May. The second wall fell days later. Still the Jews fought, street by street, house by house, dying for every stone. The Antonia fortress, overlooking the temple itself, fell in July. Now only the Temple Mount remained. Titus, according to Josephus, wanted the temple preserved, a trophy for Rome, and a monument to victory. But on August 30th, 70 AD, a Roman soldier hurled a burning torch through a golden window. What happened next was not destruction, it was apocalypse. The fire caught timber and curtain, spread to cedar beams that had stood for generations. Heat became so intense that gold fixtures melted, flowing between ancient stones. Soldiers later tore the temple apart stone by stone to retrieve gold that had seeped into cracks. The roar of flames, the crash of collapsing columns, the screams of priests who threw themselves into the inferno rather than witness desecration. The Holy of Holies, the sacred chamber only the high priest could enter once yearly, lay exposed to pagan eyes. Smoke rose so high it could be seen from the Mediterranean coast. By nightfall, the temple was ash. The killing continued for weeks. Romans swept through the upper city, mass crucifixions, mass burnings, bodies piled so high in streets that soldiers walked across corpses. When the slaughter finally ended, Titus conducted a census. Dead, 1.1 million. Enslaved, 97,000. Survivors were scattered across the empire. To mines in Egypt, arenas in Rome, slave markets throughout the Mediterranean. The golden menorah, the sacred table, the temple treasures, paraded through Roman streets. The Arch of Titus still stands in Rome today, depicting Jewish captives carrying their own holy objects into captivity. But here is what Rome did not understand. They destroyed the temple. They did not destroy the faith. Judaism transformed. Without temple sacrifice, rabbis became central. Synagogues replaced pilgrimage. Portable faith survived, where stone monuments could not. Christianity, still intertwined with Judaism, separated permanently after the destruction, becoming a distinct religion that would eventually conquer Rome itself. And the Jews, scattered across the earth, remembered. For 1,878 years, every Passover ended with the same words, "Next year in Jerusalem." In 1948, Israel was reborn. In 1967, Jewish soldiers touched the Western Wall for the first time in 2 millennia. Hardened paratroopers wept. Today, millions press prayers into those ancient stones. The only remnant of Herod's temple, the wall that refused to fall. History asks uncomfortable questions, a people scattered for nearly 2,000 years. Survived, empires that destroyed them, Babylon, Rome, others. Dust. What endures when everything burns? Perhaps faith, perhaps memory, perhaps the stubborn refusal to disappear. The Western Wall still stands, and Jerusalem remains contested ground. Some fires never stop burning.